This course is going to completely rewire your mindset about porn and nofap because everything we believe about addiction is wrong. You're going to learn about the problem of setting streaks, how to stop stumbling upon triggers, what to do when you get the urge, and you're going to learn all this with a positive mindset that's going to improve the rest of your life instead of the conventional nofap technique that leaves you feeling quite defeated and guilty. So we have to start from scratch and rewire your brain. First, let's talk about addiction. There is one study called the rat park experiment that we must discuss. Rats were placed in a cage with 2 water bottles. One was filled with water mixed with cocaine, one was just normal water. The rats in this cage drank the cocaine water until they died. Why? Because when you're in solitary confinement, when you are in a cage, you have nothing else to do other than the substance that you're addicted to, so you will overdose on that substance. Now, this experiment was fantastic because after this, they then placed the rats in what they called rat park. It was a big open environment where they got to play around with lots of stuff. They got good food, they got to have sex, they got to just enjoy themselves, and they still had the choice between the 2 water bottles. In this rat park, almost none of the rats actually drank the cocaine water, and the ones that did drink it never overdosed on it. This rat experiment is a cornerstone study that we have to acknowledge because it explains addiction so well. When you have nothing to do and you live a miserable life and you're in that cage, you will overdose on the thing that you're addicted to. But let's take you out of that cage and put you into the rat park, put you into a place, a life, an environment that you actually love, and you'll find that you will almost never overdose on some kind of substance. Even though this study was carried out on rats, I think it replicates very well to humans. So we have to look at all substances and addiction, but specifically fapping and porn addiction, as just symptoms of a bigger problem. So we have to think what the bigger problem is. It's because most of us who have this fapping and porn addiction are in our version of the rat cage. We have nothing to do. We live quite miserable, dull existences. And when you're in this cage and the only thing you feel like you can do is the addiction, the substance, then you are of course going to overdose on it. This is why we have to acknowledge this addiction and start looking at it holistically, looking at your life in general, instead of just narrowing down exactly on the porn addiction. So we're not going to focus on the addiction itself like the Nofap community suggests. We're not going to get obsessed with the streak and how long it's been since we've jacked off, and we're not going to just solely focus on this one thing, and instead we're going to look at the reason why we're doing this. With any drug addict, if you only focus on them reducing or eliminating that drug use, it's almost impossible because we take substances for a reason, to negate the shittiness of life, and so the hugely better approach is to make life less shitty. Many of us have dull existences of loneliness, of sex and relationship deprivation, and that in my opinion is why there's such a huge problem of masturbation and porn addiction, which we will discuss in one of the later sections. So there is a major problem with setting streaks. Now you and everyone watching this who's been on the nofap journey has probably set themselves a streak, relapsed and failed many times. We are going to abolish the idea of setting streaks. Why? Because setting a streak as your goal is fundamentally flawed. Ask yourself this question. You're probably about 20 years old. Ask yourself this question. Will you never fap again? Let's say you live till 70. You've got 50 years of your life. You set a streak. Will you not fap for 50 years? Don't be ridiculous. Of course you will. So the moment that you set the intention for setting a streak, you are setting yourself up for failure. It will be absolutely inevitable that you eventually break this streak. You feel guilty, you feel defeated, and you feel like you're back to square one. Setting streaks is binary thinking. It's 0-1. It's feeling that you're on 1, you're the good boy who's got his streak, he's on day 11, and the moment that you fapped once, you're back onto 0, you failed. So setting an unrealistic goal of completely eliminating this addiction is just inevitably going to fail, and it doesn't even focus on the positive progress that we can make, the improvements that we can have. And so instead of thinking of streaks and having that feel-good thing of, hey guys, I'm on day 12, are you proud of me? Instead of that shit, just think this is an addiction that you want to make progress in reducing. So instead of 0 to 1, you're now doing 0 to 100. And you can see that there's a lot of space. Let's say you're on 100, you haven't jacked off for 3 days, and then you do. Okay, now you're on 90. We can make improvements, but we can't get perfection. And reaching for perfection when you're first starting out your NoFap journey is just ridiculous. It's setting yourself up for failure. So for now, do not set any kind of streak goal. Do not say, NoFap November, I'm not going to jack up. No. The whole point is reducing it. If you're a guy who does it every single day, 3 times a day, doing it 10 times in the next month is a huge progress. That's all we can ask for is progress. So now we've got to talk about the toxic side to NoFap. The community in itself is pretty supportive. There's some nice people, and anytime you go onto the Reddit page or the YouTube comments, everyone's always supporting each other, so it's quite nice. But there's a toxic side which I've never heard anyone speak of before, and that is because NoFap, the community online, is very, very similar to just social media in general, where people post about their achievements. You go onto the NoFap Reddit page and everyone's saying, hey guys, I'm on day 16, I'm so proud of myself, and this guy's on day 60 and he's got superpowers, and all this is doing is setting social comparison. So every time that you relapse and you go onto Reddit, you see all these people who are on a higher streak, they're doing better than you. That's going to make you feel worse. This is very, very similar to the fitness industry in that you go onto Instagram and there's all these fit people with model rock chiseled abs, and here you are and you've got a little bit of bloating, your stomach's sticking out today. You're comparing yourself against these people even if you aren't consciously aware of it. The moment that you see someone else's achievements, you feel a little bit worse if your achievement isn't equal or bigger than that. Because think about it, when are you most likely to search for NoFap? After you relapse, straight after you just fapped, you're most likely to feel like shit, and then you're going to go and watch some videos to try and get some motivation, go onto the Reddit page, and that is when you're going to see all these people who are talking about the superpowers of day 30, day 60, and here you are, you've just reset your streak. So you're going to feel like shit. That would be like me binge eating and then going to look at #abs on Instagram. So to be honest, this isn't something specific about NoFap. This is just how we use social media in general. And we have to say that the NoFap community is part of the social media platforms that we use. You probably follow NoFap YouTubers, which is social media. You probably are linked to the NoFap subreddits, which is a social media. And you've probably seen research, you've heard of YouTubers like me talking about the negative effects, especially with mental health, of social media use. I would argue that even going onto the NoFap pages still gives you that negative mental health feeling, that low self-esteem, because it's inevitable that you see posts from people who are doing better than you. And even if you have a positive mindset, even if you have like a brotherhood mindset, like, oh, I'm proud of this guy for getting to day 60, your brain is going to be calculating where you are in the social hierarchy with anything that you do. And so when you see someone with a better streak than you and he's got better rewards and he's feeling it so much more than you are, your brain's going to know that he's better than you in this position, which is going to lower your self-esteem. So the practical advice I have to curing this toxic side of NoFap is to just abolish the idea of NoFap from your mind. Getting obsessed with the practice of NoFap, with no porn, is one of the reasons why many people fail, because we've got to start from the beginning and think, what is the goal of this? It was never to make NoFap into a full-time job that we think about all day, every day. We just wanted to not feel the detriments of porn and fapping every day. So constantly reminding yourself, getting obsessed with this practice is not really doing you any favors, because the end goal that we wanted, the dream that we wanted, was to literally just not ever think about porn or fapping. And that's what I'm like, so I'm going to teach you how to get here. And this is how. The moment I stopped reading into NoFap, I stopped watching the videos, I stopped even thinking about it, was when it just started feeling normal in my life. When you're obsessed about NoFap and you've got that anxiety, day by day you're thinking, when are you next going to see the trigger, and you're just going to get the urge and you're just going to fail the streak. That's when you actually fail. Stopping triggers. This part is hugely important because our brains are just kind of dumb. We kind of act like zombies sometimes, and it's almost like we're on autopilot. The moment that we see the trigger, we start jacking off. So me personally, I do not see any triggers in my day-to-day life ever. I stopped social media use. I have little to no social media use, though. I watch a few YouTube videos, but they're like self-improvement ones. I don't scroll on Reddit on the front page. That was my biggest trigger hotspot. I spend most of my time reading and just making my own YouTube videos. This means that I'm never on the platform that causes a trigger. which it means that Nofap is part of my life without me even feeling like I have to think about it. So right now, identify your trigger hotspot. Where does it keep happening? Where do you keep starting the process of fapping? For me, it was going onto Reddit. Subconsciously, maybe even a little bit consciously, I would go onto Reddit, read the top posts, you know, it's kind of fun reading about the news and the memes, but also be scrolling down knowing that if I scroll down for 20 minutes, I would start getting to the porn posts and I would click on them anyway, even if I was on Nofap. So I identified that. And there was two things. One, I knew that stumbling upon those triggers was not good for me because I didn't want to jack off. And two, I also realized that Reddit is just kind of like a social media. It's a waste of time. It fucks your mental health. So I just don't scroll on Reddit anymore at all. Now, this is very important. If you're a smart ass, this is going to hurt your ego. Social media for business use is still not okay. I have a fitness Instagram account. I barely even used it. Like I used to use it a lot, but then I haven't used it recently. I went onto it because I was going to post a link to one of my posts on YouTube, which between us, that I think you'd even agree that that is a suitable use for going onto social media. Even if you've technically quit, you're just gonna like share your video for business purposes. The moment I went on the account, there's ass. There is just ass on my fitness Instagram page. There's these bitches who are just like posing with their ass out, and without even realizing, I haven't been on social media for like 6 months, without even realizing I'm there like a zombie, mouth breathing and scrolling down, clicking on the stories and looking at just girls with massive ass. I still didn't fap, but it took me a while. It took me like a couple minutes to get out of that haze, and that makes me think how long or how hard it is for the guys who are on social media all the time. So this is one of the biggest excuses for people who don't quit social media, is that they say it's for business use. And I kind of back that, because what I'm doing for YouTube is kind of, you know, it's business use. YouTube is social media, but you've really got to lose your ego, stop being a smart ass and think if it's good for you. Posting on Instagram, I even did the math. I checked the analytics and saw that with the insights, that no one was even clicking on the links that I'd post anyway. So I'm not using Instagram anymore. So that was me being a little bit clever and seeing that it wasn't even worth it to even post my video there. And chances are, if you're using Instagram for the same thing, chances are it's go and look at your insights, go and look at how many people click on your website link. It's probably an abysmal amount, and all that's happening is that you're consciously using Instagram as an excuse to promote your business, when really you're just being a lazy fuck and you just want to scroll on Instagram because you're just unproductive. That's gonna hurt your ego a little bit, but I think that is true. Same with YouTube. Imagine if I said that, okay, I'm technically a YouTuber, I've got 1,000 subscribers, I'm posting a video 2 times a week. Imagine if I said, but I've got to watch YouTube videos for business use because I need inspiration. And the YouTube videos I was watching was like fitness girls doing workouts, and I'm there like just with a semi, just edging whilst watching it, like, but it's for business use. Like, nah, you've got to reduce that ego and stop acting like a smart ass, because I think a bunch of us young people are getting into like the online businesses, and of course social media is a big part of that, but you've got to really be honest with yourself. Are you even getting success from this social media use? Is anyone clicking on your link? Are you the thing that you're watching for inspiration? Is it actually like, are you taking notes? Are you doing stuff? Or are you literally just like pretending to watch it for inspiration when actually you're just horny? So take practical steps to remove that hotspot from your life. The first thing I did, because Reddit was mine, was that I went on Reddit and I removed the not safe for work posts, so I couldn't see them, or like I couldn't see the image of them first, it would be blurred out, but I kept on scrolling and I'd just click on it so I'd see them anyway. Then I did the thing where I can't even see them at all, like the child restrictions on Reddit. But every few days when I'd get horny, I'd like turn that off, because I'd think like, oh, but there might be some not safe for work posts which aren't porn, like fight videos, and I want to watch them. And obviously I just end up watching porn and again. So you've got to really identify the trigger hotspot and take the practical steps to remove it. So finally for me, I realized that Reddit in general was the hotspot that was the biggest issue, and that the only way I could stop experiencing those triggers was if I just stopped using Reddit altogether. I do not go onto the r/all page at all. I've subscribed to a few subreddits which every week or so, when I'm having a shit for like 5 minutes, I'll go onto them to read the top posts, and none of them, they're all like text posts, and I don't ever scroll, I don't search for anything. Same with Instagram, I just don't use the fitness Instagram. Yours may be YouTube, and you've got to ask yourself, what kind of video are you watching which then triggers you into wanting to fap? So for example, it could be like watching music videos. You've got to really lose your ego here, because your mind's gonna try to defend the reason why you keep experiencing the triggers. But the most important thing with stopping the triggers that we must discuss is the dopamine detox lifestyle. I have never experienced such an ease of nofap and porn reduction or elimination since I've went onto the dopamine detox lifestyle. This isn't just a simple, oh, you know, like, let's reduce internet use, let's not go on social media. This is a full-blown lifestyle change where I try to get easy dopamines, instant gratification, as little as possible. So I barely even watch any YouTube anymore. I don't even like go on my phone much anymore. I don't do all of that easy stuff like the video games, the Netflix, the movies, all this shit anymore. And this has made it so ridiculously easy to not fap anymore, because the fapping urge, I would say 95% of it comes from something on the internet. It's never like you're reading a book and one of the words just looks really sexy in the book and you're like, oh, I might go jack off. It's usually that you're scrolling on the internet, you're on social media, you're on YouTube, you're on whatever, and then you click P and Pornhub's still there because you don't even bother to clear the history anymore. That's how it usually happens. The dopamine detox lifestyle, I cannot recommend it more. What I will do is I will have a card pop up on screen right now, which I've explained how I've done it for 6 months. And in the description below, I've done a Skillshare class on the dopamine detox. It's like an hour long. And in that, I've went into like a lot of detail of how I've done the full 6 months detox, how you can do your own, how you can start nice and easily. So if you go scroll down right now, go to the Skillshare class in the dopamine detox and watch that. So what should you do when you get the urge? This is the make or break point. This is when most people fail, because they go past that point of no return and they're like, screw it. I'm going to reset my streak, and to make it worth it, I'm going to jack off 5 times today. Because, you know, 0 to 1 thinking, if you went to 0, you may as well stay at 0 all day and really make it worthwhile. That's a bad mentality. Hopefully, you've already abolished the idea of setting streaks, so that now you've got a new mindset when the urge comes. So adopt this new mentality. Just because you feel horny, just because you've got an erection, does not mean that you have to fap. It's mind-boggling that this is so set in stone for most of the young guys. Is the moment they've got a boner, they think, okay, I have to fap now because I can't do anything else when I've got a boner. Like, all you have to do is wait a few minutes. Seriously, if you just go have a piss, you will lose the erection within a few minutes. If you've got to actively, with some conscious effort, go and do something else for a few minutes. Usually most people, they'll get the urge whilst lying down, whilst on the internet, and they will do nothing to actually help themselves, and that just makes it harder. So then you've got a shitty 10 minutes where you're just debating it. You've got arguments, you've got demons in your head just fighting each other, just, you know, debating, should you do it, should you not, should you do it, should you not? And you're not helping yourself if you don't get out that environment quickly. So the moment that it used to happen to me, when nofap was a problem for me a few years ago, I would get up and go and do something else straight away. One of the most highly recommended practices is cold showers. The moment you get the urge, go and take a cold shower. But I'll be honest, I've never done that. Showering for me is like self-care time. I want like a peaceful, warm shower. I don't fuck with cold showers. So my advice is always go and have a piss. Usually the moment that you've had a piss, it's like you've lost most of the chub. You've lost most of the erection. Like, you've lost the urge mostly. And if you still got it, you just go and do something else, man. You've built up the habit that being horny equals fap. What we've got to do is undo this habit, because you've been strengthening this habit since you were 12 years old. 3 times a day. You've got to just understand that it's gonna take some time to undo this habit, that the moment you get the urge, you have solidified the next behavior of fapping because you got the urge for the last 8 years, 10 years. So it's gonna take you some time to start not doing that. And this is why, again, the problem with streaks, because it's so unrealistic for us to expect you to perfectly undo this habit that you've been strengthening up for so long. So we've got to be a little bit nicer to you and make it quite obvious. You've been doing this for so long that it's gonna take some time to disassociate the urge from fapping. So it's important to understand what the urge actually is. When you feel like fapping, that is just your testosterone, that's your drive as a man spiking up. It wants you to do 2 things. 1, have sex and procreate, reproduce and have children. Or 2, work hard, get the resources that then will let you have sex, procreate and reproduce and have kids. So 1, if you've got a girl that you're sleeping with, go and sleep with her. The biggest reason why guys have problems with nofap in porn is because they don't have a girl to sleep with. And this is why most guys, sounds offensive, but most guys are losers, because when this urge comes, that urge is for you to go and work hard. That urge is telling you right now, since you don't have someone to reproduce with, to use this energy that you've got to go and get the resources that makes you someone who attracts women. Because as men, we've got to say, it's common sense, but most young guys don't know this because of the indoctrination of the education system. You've never been told about masculinity. So hopefully you're still tuned in for this bit. I'm going to teach you something your daddy never taught you. Men, as masculine figures, we are worthless unless we work hard. Our value is 100% based on what we've achieved. Women is a little bit different because most guys would happily wife a girl who doesn't have achievements. Just if she's like attractive enough, she's got like the characteristics that we would assume would be feminine and potentially that she could have children for us. But as men, women are attracted to us as men because of our achievements, because of the resources that we have due to our achievements, due to us working hard. So you work hard, you get the achievements and resources like money, safety, attractiveness, confidence, wealth, and food, and that is what makes us attractive. That is, even though it sounds like I'm saying women are gold diggers, but that is what women are attracted to. They want someone who can provide for them, whether or not, we're on like the whole 2020, everyone's equal and women don't care about providing anymore. But in our natural life, in our biological impulse, that is what works. It's the man who works hard, gets resources, and those resources, amongst his confidence, his attractiveness that comes from acquiring resources, makes him more valuable to women. If you don't have multiple women in your life right now, because it's the age of Tinder, if you've only got 0 to 1, I mean, 1 if you've got a long-term relationship, fair enough, but it's the age of Tinder and social media dating. It's not too difficult to have multiple girls. And I know I sound like a little fuckboy player, but that is the cure to the fapping addiction, to porn. If you can have sex 3-4 times a week, you wouldn't be jacking off, especially if you knew in a day or two that you would then go and see another girl, because you would just think like, saving up is fun. I would rather have a bigger load for her rather than just, why would I do it by myself? It's 10 times, 100 times more fun when you share the experience with someone else. That's like one of life's greatest moments. And so if you're depriving yourself of that because the moment you get the urge to work hard and you're just being lazy and thinking, no, I'm not going to use this to get the resources that would, eventually get me a girlfriend, and instead I'm going to go jack off to Riley Reid on Pornhub, then you aren't going to have that drive, because how much work do you do immediately after fapping? Not much. How fast do you clean up your place when you've got a girl coming over? That is the urge, the testosterone increasing. When you know you're going to be seeing a girl, that's when we start working real hard. Even though we should be doing it for ourselves and, the whole shit of like, work hard for yourself. But one of the biggest reasons we do anything as men is for women, whether or not you want to admit it. The moment you get the urge, that's your body telling you to work hard to get the resources that would make you more attractive to girls. So use that urge. Another mentality that I briefly mentioned is that saving up is fun. It's a lot more fun when you know in the next week or so that you're going to be meeting a girl that you would sleep with. If you don't have that kind of consistently set, you probably don't view saving up as fun, because in our mindset, it's like, oh, I've got an erection and I must jack off. Like, I must. But you've got to keep thinking that just because you've got an erection does not mean that you have to fap. So when you next get the urge, just identify and say it to yourself that this is my testosterone, and my testosterone signals two things. It either wants me to go and have sex right now, or it wants me to work hard so that I can have sex later. If you can't have sex right now, okay, fair enough. But you can work hard that would make you more attractive to girls so that the future version of you isn't struggling with no fap. So why not do the future version of yourself some justice? Do him a favor that he'll be grateful for, because in some time you are going to be your future self. And wouldn't you like in 3 months' time to be able to look back and think, you know what, younger me, thank you for not just jacking off all the time, because instead of jacking off, you went to the gym, and today I've just seen like I've got a little bit of a bicep, I've got some abs, and I posted a picture of my abs on Tinder, got some matches, and maybe I'll be meeting this girl on Saturday. You probably can't get that right now because you keep using your urge to just fap. Guilt-free relapse. This is hugely important. How you treat yourself psychologically after a setback determines what your future success will be like. Think about the businessman who fails to get a sale. Imagine if he's a little bitch and he comes home and he's like, oh, but I didn't even get it, and I'm gonna go post it online about it, and I'm really sad, and there's no point, you can't even get sales like this, and I'm so stupid. Imagine he just beats himself up because he didn't get the sale. Is he then going to be better for the next sale? Nah, he's gonna be more anxious and sooner or later he's just going to quit because it's psychologically messing him up. What about the businessman who doesn't get the sale but thinks positively and he thinks, okay, I didn't get it. He goes home and journals and he writes down, I said this wrong and I stuttered when I said this and I didn't even know the price of the item or whatever. I could have done this better. So next time, here's my plan. We know that the second guy is just nicer to himself. He's got more positive, just all round life is just better for him. And he's definitely more likely to get the sale next time because he's actually put some intention, some good effort into improving himself with every setback. And that's what we need to do. We need to change our mindset that every single time we relapse, we start beating ourselves up. And I see all the comments like, hey guys, I just relapsed today. I feel like shit and I didn't even get to experience and I was on day 29 and I was so close to getting to experience the stuff. Nah, don't talk to me like a little bitch, man. Think positively. Think, hey guys, I got to day 29. That's my highest so far. I did relapse, but that is my highest so far. And this is what I did wrong. I went onto the Reddit all page and I had the urge and I should have just got up and had a cold shower instead, but I didn't. So next time when I get to day 29 again, I'm going to beat it and I know what to do when I get to the urge. Speak like that. Talk to yourself like that and your life just gets so much better. Stop talking to yourself like you're a bad person. Here's some practical advice. Every single time you relapse, every single time that you do FAP, just journal about it. If the moment you start journaling or even before you start journaling, it will feel uncomfortable. You will not want to do this. So the psychological mindset is to start journaling when you don't want to do it. Specifically journal when you don't feel like it. Because writing about fapping and porn and the reason why you fap today is pretty uncomfortable. So you probably won't do it unless you tell yourself, no. The whole point is to do it when it is uncomfortable because that's when your ego is getting deflated and you're actually learning about the reasons why you did it. Really ask yourself, why does this keep happening? Why is this a problem for me? And then an important part of that, which I journaled about ages ago, was that I had to ask myself, wait, why does this keep happening to me? And then I wrote, is this a me problem? Am I the wrong in this? And I wrote, no, of course not. I know about the Nofap community. I know that porn is like the biggest problem of young men. This is not an individual problem. This is a whole worldwide problem of men everywhere and quite a lot of women now as well. This is not a me problem. That means that it's not your fault. It means that the influences are external. That means that, the porn, the internet, the life, the world that we live in has made it way more common to be experiencing this problem because literally millions, hundreds of millions of people are experiencing the same problem as you. So be a little bit nicer to yourself. That doesn't mean that you're bad. It kind of means that the world is bad. And when you do relapse, don't even view it as failure. Remember the binary thinking. We're not doing the 0 to 1. The moment you relapse, you failed. You've got to reset the streak. No. Ask yourself in the last 30 days, how much time have you spent fapping? We just want to reduce that. So usually before you got onto the NoFap, let's say you did it every single day for half an hour for the last 30 days. That's like 15 hours. 15 hours of the last 30 days you spent fapping. That's huge. What if you start going onto this, the new version of NoFap that you've learned today, and you think, okay, 15 hours over the last 30 days, my goal is to make it less than 10. That's a huge progress. Honestly, if someone told me that was the progress they made, I would actually think like, what a sick guy. That's huge progress. If someone told me, I usually fap for 15 hours, I'm going to make it 0. I'm going to do no fap November. I think, no, you're not. And I'll be a little bit supportive to you just for the sake of like being a nice person, but I already know you're going to fail. Every time someone's told me that they're going to do no fap, they've failed. Every single time, 100% of the time they failed. They did not have the guilt-free relapse. They had the very, very guilty relapse. The moment they failed on day 3 of November, they started messaging me like, it sucks. I'm so tired of being addicted to porn. It's a problem and stuff. And I just can't do it. I'm addicted and I fap too much and I hate my life and stuff. And I'm just thinking like, bro, why are you setting unrealistic goals to begin with then? It's just because it sounds nicer. It's because of that social media stunting, the toxic side of NoFap. It sounds amazing to say that you have got to day 15 to day 30 because you get to tell all the boys and you're so proud of yourself. It sounds less amazing when you say, I'm not exactly doing NoFap. I'm doing this thing where I just jack off less. So usually I jack off 30 days in a month. This time I did it 7 days. It's not as exciting. It's not as like socially valued. And so you don't get that nice social media boost from it. But if you're a pussy, then do the other way. But if you don't care about the social media boost and you're here for self-improvement, then try it my way. Don't go for 0, go for 60. We're not doing 0 to 1 anymore, binary thinking. We're doing 0 to 100. How much time have you spent in the last 30 days fapping? just reduce it. Make sure you remind yourself that it inevitably will keep happening for the rest of your life. No matter what, even if you set this nofap intention, you will keep jacking off for the rest of your life. The goal is to just do it so little that it doesn't bring us any detriment. That is the ideal life. We never wanted a certain thing which said like, oh, don't jack off for 7 years straight, for 50 years straight, because it's just unrealistic. So the moment it happens, remember that you have to be your own best friend. If you treat yourself like shit, it's actually going to happen more often. This is usually due to the bad parenting you've experienced, where when you do something bad, they treat you bad with punishments, negative reinforcement. In cases you've never learned about psychology, humans don't learn from punishments. We learn from positive reinforcement. We literally learn from love and kindness, even though that isn't what you've ever heard before, because if you're American, you know that prisons are so popular and parents beating their children is so common. The real way that we learn and we improve our behavior is through positive reinforcement, through praise, through love and kindness. So the moment you reach day 10 and you relapse, say that you're proud of reaching day 10 and don't even think about day 10. Fuck the streak in general. We're doing it on like a 30-day basis, the 0 to 100. And if you've reduced the time that you spend fapping, then be proud of that. Learn from every single relapse. One thing that I've been quite weirded out is that there's almost no talk of mental health in nofap. Usually people will just about mention it and they'll say, okay, my mental health is better, or, you know, mental health is important in nofap. But then they'll fail to give you guys any value to actually improve your mental health. And there's a few ways that you can improve your mental health. I'll explain them in a second. But first of all, imagine a scenario. Imagine you have perfect mental health. You felt so happy and healthy. You were proud of your achievements. You had good social relationships. You were just a productive, happy guy. Would you be jacking off 3 times a day, sweaty underneath the covers on page 50 of Pornhub? Nah, of course you wouldn't. Literally, you would not. Let's flip the script. Let's say you've got severe depression. You haven't been outside in 3 weeks. Even before COVID pandemic was a thing. You haven't been outside in a while. You hate your life. You're just depressed. You're on the internet all day. You just lie in bed all day. Would you be jacking off 3 times a day? Probably 5, probably 6. I would say that mental health is actually the characteristic that determines how much you abuse substances and addictions. If you've got high levels of depression and anxiety, it is inevitable that you are more likely to take more drugs, 100%. And it probably is the drug and addiction that is causing the depression in the first place. Because think of it in a practical scenario, having depression and anxiety means that you're more likely to be indoors, not really seeing the social relationships, not speaking to family as much, being on the internet all day, lying in bed all day. That's the exact trigger hotspot where it happens. Hopefully you've never jacked off when you were going for a walk outside, when you felt nice and happy, you were walking out in the sun, but you have jacked off 1,000 times when you're sweaty underneath the covers, or when you're in your little cave on your computer on 4chan. And you're more likely to be in those hotspots if you've got depression and anxiety symptoms. So there will be a link in the description. It's the NHS mood assessment score. It gives you a score for your depression and anxiety. I would really suggest to take that test. It takes like 30 seconds and it's quite fun to do. Answer the questions, see what you score. If your score is more than just a couple points in either of them, that is something to improve on as a whole separate pillar of self-improvement, and it will help with nofap, but it will literally help in all areas of life. As your depression symptoms lower, you literally just enjoy life more. You're just more happy. There's nothing worth more than that. As your anxiety lowers, the thoughts in your head just become a lot more peaceful and you're not just scared of shit anymore, which again, there's not much things better than that. Go to the link, take the test. I think it'd be very valuable, and I will also have my mental health playlist pop up on a card right now. So if you want to focus on mental health, make sure you watch that. So now let's just start a discussion with my opinion on why so many young men get addicted to this. Why is this so common? This is by far the most common addiction of young men ever. I don't think there's ever been a time in history where more people have been addicted to the same thing. So why? Definitely the previous point, mental health contributes. Young men's mental health is the worst it's ever been as far as I know. But that I think is just one characteristic. I think it's society and the world in a whole. And so we've got to ask, why specifically is it young men who are suffering from this? I think that one of the biggest reasons is that most young men are just not happy with their lives. This has been a very common trait as young men. Okay, I've mentioned before that our value comes from the work that we do, the achievements that we've gotten. And as a young man, you inevitably don't have as many achievements as you would in another 20 years' time. So that's true. And the achievementless life that we live, coupled with how society is, the internet is, has made it just just tenfold harder to get out of this addiction. Porn and fapping is the temporary escape from the achievementless life, just like video games. We put ourselves in this virtual reality because we don't like real life. We don't like reality. In reality, you're a loser. But in Call of Duty, you're level 30. In reality, you're weak. But in RuneScape, you've got 96 strength. You're just a 16-year-old, 20-year-old guy who's got 3 friends on Discord and you haven't had a girlfriend. You've kissed 3 girls in your life and you want some intimacy. Well, porn can kind of give you that, especially the modern day porn of OnlyFans and Twitch streamers. That's pretty much porn now. The stuff that feels a lot more personal, because most guys don't get the personal touch from a woman. So the moment a streamer on Twitch says your name when you donate $50 to her, it's like your heart starts beating fast because a girl hasn't said your name in a while, and when this pretty girl is saying like, thank you, XX Dragon Slayer, that's the most intimacy you've had in a while. So young men are intimacy deprived, and that is why the addiction is so common. But what you've got to realize is that the more you escape from reality, the less achievements you'll actually have. The more that you put yourself into the video games, porn, the virtual world, which feels nicer right now, the less achievements you'll have in the long run. In my channel, it's all based on the instant versus delayed gratification. And the more you indulge in the instant gratification, you feel better right now. But the moment you stop, the moment you pull yourself out of the virtual world, your life is shit. And this is also why the internet abuse is so common and it's so rampant against young people, because if your life is shit when you pull yourself out of the internet, out of the video game, out of porn, then you just pull yourself out of it less. So you're just putting more time into this stuff, because the only time you're somewhat happy with life is when you're watching porn, is when you're playing video games, because that's the only time when you're not actually in reality. But the more that you put yourself in that position, the more you hide away from reality, the worse reality is going to be. At some point, you're going to have to face reality. You're going to have to face the delayed gratification. That's the activities that are hard right now, but in the long run, they make your life so much better. That's exercise, that's working hard, that's learning a skill, learning an instrument, learning a new language, that's making a business, going out to approach real women, that's, you know, whatever it is. That's what makes life worth living. And so many guys are avoiding that because of this whole comfort lifestyle that we've got. Our lives are just so comfortable. We spend all day on our phones in bed just watching shit, and COVID is a nice excuse for everyone. Like, oh, but there's a pandemic, so I can't go outside, so I can't do anything. Like, yes, you can. 100% you can. You can do some delayed gratification every day. And that is the cure to fapping. That is the cure to porn. Remember we said at the start that we've got to view this holistically. We've got to stop obsessing about porn and fapping in general and start thinking that they are just symptoms of having a shitty life. So we've got to make your life less shitty, and that will come through self-improvement. You will have to endure the trials and tribulations as the rest of us in the self-improvement community. Nofap is a part of it, but Nofap gets skyrocketed when you start improving other areas of your life. Never before has there been so many young guys who are deprived of intimacy, of relationships, of sex, because we are just pretty worthless at this point. I know that sounds horrible and we're supposed to be like, oh, you go king, you do this. But the thing is, you don't deserve that nice talk to yourself just yet when you haven't done anything good with yourself. So I know that there's a new kind of thing on social media where we're all bigging each other up and it's quite nice. But we've got to be honest with you right now and think you will feel better about yourself. You will believe when people say nice things about you, that, you know, all men are all great and cute and whatever, all men are kings. You will believe that when you feel like a king, when you've delayed gratification and you actually feel on top of the world. You don't believe that shit right now, that feel good, we're all kings mentality and all this shit. You don't believe that right now because it's obvious that you aren't. It's obvious that you aren't a hard worker. It's obvious that you aren't a valuable person because you've been putting all your time and effort into instant gratification. This probably sounds horrible, but I hope that you can use this as inspiration to start your self-improvement journey. Nofap is just one small pillar, literally a small pillar of self-improvement in general. And self-improvement in general is literally just one small pillar of just working hard. That is what we're all missing at this age, is that we are not hard workers. And everyone's gonna like be so annoyed at that because baby bloomers earned certain amount more and they were able to buy houses cheaper and shit. But the thing is, we're all addicted to internet, we're all addicted to drugs, we're all addicted to just wasting time on social media, on video games, on Netflix, and that means that we aren't spending that time productively. The moment you start reducing that stuff, you go into a dopamine detox, you go into self-improvement, you start working out, you build some confidence, you start seeing some muscle, you start feeling good, everyone's treating you better, you go out and your social skills improve and you start talking to girls, and then you start having sex with girls, and then you start having sex with multiple girls. Nofap isn't even a problem. You don't need to think about nofap at all when you've leveled up your life. This really brings it to a societal level, a worldwide level, because 100 years ago, every one of us would have been married at this age. Even you, ugly motherfucker. We all would have been married at this age. We would have had kids. Nofap wouldn't have been such a thing that we needed. Maybe a bit more because obviously porn is like leveled up since 100 years ago, but we would have had women in our lives. The reason why there's such a big difference is because women's value is going up. They're actually working hard. And you know, they went from just being solely mothers and wives to now also doubling that with a career. And so they've got their own money now. They don't need you as a provider anymore, unless you're going to be a high level provider, unless you're going to be like social status, unless you're going to be really attractive and confident and make it feel amazing. If you can't do that stuff, then you just aren't really valuable to women. I'm so surprised that not many people actually talk about this in nofap. The cure to nofap is to just have women in your life, to sleep with women. You don't need to think about nofap and porn when you're going to be having sex today or tomorrow. And so we don't get to experience that because of the addictions, including fapping and porn. But there's more than that. That is a symptom of the bad life, and another symptom is the video games, the drugs, the 4 hours we spend on social media, the depression, the anxiety. All of that is just a symptom of having a life that you're not happy with. And to have a life that you're happy with, there is no secret. It is literally just work. It's making progress. Progress creates happiness. Get onto the self-improvement, start setting some goals, and start working towards those goals every single day. I hope this video has helped you and it served as valuable. This was going to be a course that I sold on a website similar to Skillshare, but I made it for free on YouTube because I just feel like it's gonna help more people. So if you appreciate that, then it would help my channel, I believe, if the engagement was higher. So if you like and if you comment, and you know, make sure you smash that like button, guys. The shit that YouTubers say. I never used to say this stuff, but apparently it does help. So if you do want to help me back, then like, leave a little comment, start a debate in the comments. That'll be nice because I'll come in and reply to you and we'll have a little argument. If you want to see more videos from a somewhat unconventional small YouTuber who just chats shit, then turn on the post notifications and you'll get a message when I next release my video. So if you watched all this one, then you probably like my stuff, so turn on the post notifications, sort me out. I do coaching on a one-to-one basis. We do self-improvement coaching. I teach you all this, what you've learned today, times 10. Any goal that you've got, I will help you with. I'm somewhat of a self-improvement veteran, I would like to believe. And so I believe that having a mentor in your life who's just constantly helping you do things and help you change your mindset about things, setting you goals and helping you with everything, I believe that just changes the trajectory of your life so much more. So hopefully if you do sign on to that, we'll make you some great progress. So far the students have said that it's helped them quite a lot. So the coaching link is in the description. Click on that right now and do a one-to-one session with me. I have an email newsletter. I send out one email every single Sunday. It's like a week's review. I teach you something about self-improvement, give you some motivation. There'll be some things about nofap. You'll learn all this and it's for free. Sign up to it and one person every single month gets picked randomly to win a month of coaching. So you could win that. It's worth like £100 for free. And finally, there's going to be a little rectangle on screen. If you watch this video and you liked it and you've now understood the importance of self-improvement in general, click on the little video that's popped up right now. It's a full young men's guide to self-improvement. Everything you need to know about self-improvement. It's literally an hour long. Everything you need to know is in this video. Click on it and start there. Take care.